All all right, we are live. We are ready to go here.
Yes, we are.
So, welcome to the first recording here of outdated NFL outdated and uneducated takes.
Mm-hmm. Outdated and educated. Let's go.
So, what we'd like to talk about obviously is the NFL season starting. So excited for everything to get going. So pumped this year.
Mm.
And what a game, to really start off the
Oh yeah,
season
yeah.
with.
That's what the fans wanted for sure.
Absolutely. So, give us obviously your take, uneducated takes
Oh
on
yeah.
this first game.
Yeah, I mean, you love to see it, honestly. Very few losers. I mean, the Cowboys, you lost. It's never fun to count on moral victories, but I feel pretty good if I was a Cowboys fan right now. Like that is a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. I feel really good about Dak Prescott paired with Kellen Moore right now. That seems like it's a good pairing. That was a good game plan against the number one run defense in the NFL. Just get it out wide and get it deep when you can. Decent performance by the offensive line. They were a little overmatched down Zach Martin, but that was a good performance if you're a Cowboys fan. And even if you're a Pats fan, I feel great too. I mean, you had to try to lose that game, and you still won it. They were throwing that game towards them. Just dumb, unlucky turnovers, and just they couldn't capitalize on it in the red zone enough to bring it back. So yeah, I would say I'd feel good. I'm good as a neutral fan. I'm not really a fan of either of these two teams, but that was a hell of a game to watch. I'm so glad football is back, and that was the perfect. It almost feels like it's rigged because it was the perfect welcome back. It had everything you want.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what you expected for the game plan. That obviously the Buccaneers had a really solid, run defense. And so you kind of knew that, you know, Zeke was going to have a tough time, right?
Yeah, and yeah, he did. He struggled the whole game. It looked worse than I thought it would. You weren't expecting him to go off, right? You weren't expecting a 200-yard Zeke performance. At least I wasn't. That's a really good defense, good defensive line, really good linebackers, and even a downhill safety in Winfield Jr. to top it off. Like that. You are not gonna run all over that team. You can pass all over that team though if you have three legit wide receivers, a decent offensive line, and a quarterback that can push the ball downfield. So I think that was the right game plan, and we saw that they're a little weak at the corner position, but I mean, not weak enough. I mean, they're still able to put up the points and take home the W. I was just thrilled all around. Brady, his arms gotten stronger or what? He threw it almost out the back of the end zone on the Hail Mary from from half.
And he was throwing tight balls into the end zone, that first one to Godwin and all of that as well. One more point on the Dallas running backs.
Yeah.
When you look at the game, at least I saw Pollard really involved into it. And I don't know if that was part of the adjustments they needed to make or what do you see about that?
I see that that's the correct way to run an offense in 2021. I do not like the bell cow. I mean, Derrick Henry, exception to the rule. He's just not a human, though. You can't rely on that. We see what happens in a case like Dalvin Cook, for example, where you see what happens when you pound them. They trail off towards the end of the season. For some reason, Henry gets bigger, but if you rely on one running back for the whole season, that's your bell cow. That's your go-to player, especially one that's in his mid-20s. I mean, mid-20s isn't that old unless you're a running back in the NFL. You're gonna slow down at the end of the season, and your production is gonna drop off. It's not gonna be as effective. And I'm glad to see that they had Pollard, especially in the screen game as well, and they even had him out of the slot a little bit. It looked really good. I liked the game plan a lot, honestly. I am afraid of this offense going forward this season because that's a good defense, right? We saw what that defense did to Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Exact same personnel, right? And if if the Texans or I'm sorry, if Dallas was in the Super Bowl with this team, you can't say that it might not have gone differently. You know what I mean? It's crazy. They really put together a good game plan, and their skill position players are so crazy that it's bananas. They're gonna have there's gonna be a fun year for Dallas fans if they can stay healthy.
Well, healthy. And the other thing, in my opinion, if Mike McCarthy can stay out of his own way as well.
Dallas does live to trip over its own dick. They
Absolutely,
love it.
absolutely.
But I mean, you saw Tampa Bay almost did it today too. That was a Dallas-esque performance by Tampa Bay. That was like please take the game. Like, we want you to have it, please.
Absolutely. It really looked like Tampa Bay was just going to kind of run away with it. Just the way they were so efficient on offense, and getting into Gronk and all of that. And
Yeah.
and look at this. We have an Antonio Brown sighting.
Yeah. Yeah, it looked really fresh too. He's in his 30s, by the way.
Well,
That's-
and obviously his coach said that he was looking a lot like Antonio Brown from a few years ago. Of course, that could have just been coach speak, but it was there, right?
Yeah, it was 100% there. Like, he had the moves, he had the deep speed. Like, it's not a hard secondary to beat. And honestly, one thing if I am concerned about Dallas is that defensive line for sure. Like, that needs to. I don't see a solution to that, honestly. And this is a good offensive line for sure. It's a revamped offensive line, but you need to be able to get some pressure on the quarterback. Like, we saw Tampa Bay had a great offense for the second half of the season and through the playoffs, but they don't win if they don't get pressure on the quarterback. And if you want to like this is a good Dallas team, but if you want to be like a deep playoff run Dallas team, a Dallas team we haven't seen for a couple decades now, you got to be able to get a little pressure on the passer. And Tom Brady's hard to pressure, right? He's just kind of like a little slippery, slidey man back there, right? So I understand for sure, but yeah, that's definitely my biggest concern for this team. Micah Parsons looked okay, but that defensive line was, yeah.
There were a couple of places that Micah Parsons did look a little bit lost, but obviously he's a rookie, kind of getting used to the speed of the game and everything. And Thursday nights are absolutely. And Thursday nights are always kind of, odd games.
Yeah.
So, well, obviously we got the first game under our belt. Let's go ahead right into week one. Some matchups that we'd like to focus on and get everyone ready for it. And what game would you like to start with?
I'm gonna start. I'm gonna get warmed up by starting with my hometown squad. I want to talk about the Vikings Bengals. I'm gonna talk about a couple of games that don't seem very relevant, and I'm also gonna talk about a game everyone wants to talk about. so this game doesn't seem that relevant, but there's kind of a lot of questions that are going to be answered about these two teams. And that ripples through their divisions and conferences as well, right? Mm-hmm. So if Joe Burrow, to begin with, I will believe a quarterback as inexperienced as Joe Burrow is going to flim-flam Zimmer when I see it. That is not going to be an easy game for him. And that offensive line is, I guess, improved. Riley Reif, I do like that addition. He's a starting quality left tackle in the NFL. Iowa, yeah, those Midwest offensive linemen, man, you gotta love them. and so he has maybe a career season last year. So he's coming off a career season or close to it at least, and that's going to be tough. But if we can just confuse, or I shouldn't say we, if the Vikings can just confuse that boy a little bit, I think that game can go down quickly. We've seen it. We've seen him shut down Jared Goff in the high-flying Rams. Like, we've seen him shut down Russell Wilson. Honestly, Mike Zimmer coaches better against young, good quarterbacks than he does, like, veteran backups destroy Zimmer. Because they kind of know, like, they see through the mirage, right? Young quarterbacks do not see through it. And I don't blame them. It's a combination of man, zone, quarters, like, it is. And there's, like, moving pieces. It is a poetry in motion thing to watch. But this could be an upset for sure. And the Vikings are only 3-point favorites on this one. I mean, I know that's on the road, so that does say that Vegas thinks that the Vikings are a better team. But I could see it going south. There's a lot of new players on one-year contracts on that defense. The offense, and I know it's preseason, that offense has looked really bad in preseason. And I know it doesn't matter, right? Like, I've already forgotten about the preseason, and none of the starters played. But there's this odd tension that's been building through, like, over the years, really. And right now, you can tell Zimmer is afraid for his job right now because he's throwing other people under the bus to the media every day. And it's glorious, by the way. Watch Mike Zimmer press conferences. Oh my God, he is unhinged and it is glorious. But you can tell that he's afraid. Right? And he sees how fragile this thing is. The depth on this team is 0. They had 11 draft picks this year, 15 draft picks the year before, and nothing to show for it as far as depth. Outside of Justin Jefferson and Brian O'Neill, that's all they have to show for it right now. The depth has completely fallen off, and I don't blame Zimmer for throwing Spielman under the bus like he does. On the Bengals side, I am ready to see that offense. That is an offense that could look a lot like the offense we saw Dallas tonight. They have 3 good receivers. They have a quarterback who can distribute the ball. And if their offensive line can just approach average, I think we're good to go, right? I think we're ready for them to start making noise in their division. It's a tough division, but but that's what it takes. So I mean, I'll take the Vikings in that game 10 times out of 10 if I'm a betting man. I am a betting man, but I never bet on the Vikings because I like my money.
Right.
I like the Vikings in that game for sure. Probably by I wouldn't bet this line. I wouldn't bet this line. The Vikings play games to keep games close, and this seems like a game that's just going to grind it out, and it's going to be 3 points. I could see it being 2, 3, 1 points real easily.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, going back to the Bengals a little bit, what do you make of Jamar Chase and some of his comments here recently?
I think they need to send him to the Nike Vision Camp. That's what I think. He reminds me of Troy Williamson, 7th overall pick to replace Randy Moss. I'm concerned about him, especially I don't like to, there's something going on in his home life, too. I'm not going to say, I know there was, weird accusations floating around. I'm not saying he beat his pregnant wife. That's outrageous. Nobody knows what happened. But, he doesn't seem right, and he doesn't look right? So that, you get the feeling when you see something in someone's life that's kind of going a little askew, and you see that on the field, you're it just doesn't, the vibe is not right. I'm a big vibe guy when it comes to watching sports, and when you watch him, the vibe is off. His comments do not reassure, and I don't know. What do you think of him? Do you think he's going to pull out of it?
Well, obviously, I hope he does. I picked him up in a lot of leagues.
Oh yeah, big dynasty.
Yeah. You look at obviously in that offense with T. Higgins. He really could disappear, and you just don't want to see that for a young player. He might have a lot of expectations on him, too much on himself. So we'll see. But really the X factor there, I think, is Joe Burrow, right?
Yeah.
With that connection from college, hopefully he can bring him along.
Yeah, it's on him to a degree, right? Because receivers, when there's so little is actually in their hands, especially Chase lately. But that's a good point. If Burrow can bring him along, that is such a talented wide receiver group. I would take that over 9/10 of the league. That is a quality receiver group. Boyd is quality. Higgins is quality. And hopefully, if Chase can if he's a good wide receiver 3 in his rookie year, great. You know what I mean? That is fine. We will take that every time, especially if you have 2 studs in front of him. Doesn't matter as much if he's got the yips the first year. He still gets open. That's the important part.
Although I don't think the fantasy managers want to hear that, though.
No, they don't. And I didn't draft him because, like I said, the vibe was not right. The talent is there, right? The talent is there, and we will not know, right? Even every draft pick is a crapshoot. Even after training camp, it's very hard to know. It's a training cramp. It's from today's game. Everyone was cramping.
So you are picking your Vikings.
I'm picking the Vikings by 3 or less. 3 or less. And it's going to be an ugly fourth quarter.
It is.
I'll put that little nugget in there. It's going to be an ugly fourth quarter. There's going to be mistakes, and there's going to be teams that throw the game away. One, if not both teams, are going to throw the game away in the fourth quarter.
And you're going to be sweating it out.
Every single week, man. I was born into this torture.
Hey, I used to live in that state, so.
Mm-hmm.
And,
all right, who you got?
So the first game I'd like to talk about, obviously, is a sexy game. It's the one that a lot of people are talking about. Browns Chiefs. And got to get right in there. For me, obviously, this is going to really rely on the running backs and the Chiefs. How are they going to be able to stop, the front seven?
Yeah.
They've had issues, obviously, with that. And the Browns have two just quality backs.
Oh, yeah.
So I really see, for me, uh, Kareem Hunt being involved in a huge amount. Obviously, I think Chubb's going to be involved, but I see Hunt having the better game here. Obviously, coming back with a kind of almost a revenge game, right? He's really going to
Sure,
want
yeah.
to
Yeah.
get into it, and the Chiefs may be keying on Chubb, where Hunt will be able to get his yards and touchdowns and things like that. So.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and the story of that game could very well rest on ball control, like you say. Like because that run game, and like I like to view it as a complete package, right? That run package is deadly. That is a Shanahan 49ers level run package. You have two backs and one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. On top of that, a coach that has proven that he knows how to run the football given those pieces, right? We've seen it every single year. He's been a play caller in the NFL. There's been a top 5 running game, right? He did it in Minnesota. He did it in the Browns. It's 2 years, right? It's not a huge sample size, but he has never shown us anything but that. So you do have to accept it after 2 years. And so that's the path to victory for me. Is if the Browns can control the clock on that game. They can push the ball too with those deep crossing routes for sure. But can they control the pace of the game?
Another point that I kind of look to focus on here is obviously the matchup between Denzel Ward and Tyreek Hill. Obviously Tyreek Hill is going to get his space, he's going to get his yards, but obviously Denzel Ward, he can really, I don't know if he's going to shut him down, right? But I think he can just, limit him, because obviously you've got a quarterback in Patrick Mahomes that does all of these, coming out of the pocket and just making something out of nothing. So obviously Tyreek can get open, things like that. But I think in the long term, over the whole game, I think Denzel Ward is going to really limit him. And overall, I think they're gonna score a lot of points. But as they say, the team that scores the most points wins. And in the end, I think the Browns are going to score the most points because of that running game that you talked about.
Yeah, and going back to that Ward v Hill matchup, I'm also really interested to see how they use. Is it Justin Johnson or his last name? The safety, from the Rams, one of the better safeties in the league. I did forget it. I think it's Justin, but it's Johnson. And what he's going to bring to be able to contain that over the top. I'd be interested if they. I would imagine they would go too high against them, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a safety sneaking down into the box with Justin Johnson watching over the top.
Very good. And obviously, going back to the Chiefs' offense, it's going to be really interesting to see the Browns' defense. Right? You've got Clowney, you've got Garrett. It's really going to come down to how the Chiefs' offensive line can handle them. And so that's another reason that I am leaning heavily toward the Browns in winning this game.
Leaning heavily.
Me?
Yeah. You're leaning heavily Browns.
Heavily Browns.
You love to hear it.
Well, yeah, I like to do something different as well. But I think the Chiefs are one of those teams. They are hyped.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, they've got the star quarterback. They've got all the offensive weapons. But when it comes down to it, I think, obviously, if you've got a solid defensive scheme and the players to really, execute that scheme, that's kind of the biggest thing for me. I see Garrett and Clowney really having big days against that offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be really interesting to see how that revamped offensive line looks because they spend a lot of money and resources. And honestly, what else are they going to do, right? Where's the other hole they're going to fill? No, we're going to shore up the offensive line for our $500 million quarterback, right? What else are you gonna do? I wish my team would do it a little more, right? They went out and they spent and they made it happen, and I am interested to see because that is going to be a matchup. That is a really really great matchup in the trenches, and that's why I watch football. Watching Vea lead block on a dive. That's why we all watch football, for being honest. And
So I have the Browns winning 31-27 here. It's going to be relatively high scoring, but I think the Browns have just enough to um, obviously, win this one here.
yeah, the blueprint is there for sure from the Super Bowl, right? If you can, they are amazing, right? The Chiefs are amazing. The offense is incredible. When you get down to it, they really only have two weapons that you have to stop, right? And if you can pressure the quarterback and limit, because you can't stop Kelsey and Hill at the same time. You can't stop him, but if you can pressure the quarterback quick enough to limit them, right? And you have good coverage to back it up. You have good safeties. We saw what Winfield did in the Super Bowl, right? You can beat this team, and right, it helps to have Tom Brady as your quarterback. But and I won't go compare. What do you think? What do you think of Mayfield? Then you must be somewhat high on Mayfield if you're bringing that line to the table. I know we talked about the run game.
So this may surprise you. I am not all that high on Mayfield.
Yeah.
Here's why. He doesn't need to be the star, right?
Yeah.
He just needs to kind of be the game manager and not make the big mistake.
Yep.
For me, I look at him and he makes me nervous, but I think obviously you've got Stefanski and you've got between Kareem Hunt and Chubb, I think they're really going to control the line of scrimmage, control the ball, and that's why you keep the Chiefs to 27. If you try to make Mayfield throw it all over and really try to be a cowboy, so to speak, not a Dallas Cowboy, that's when the Browns are going to get in trouble, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
I think it's going to be more of the ball control with the running and just enough without Mayfield doing too much.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah, and that's a recipe to success. As long as he's on a rookie contract, you can work with that formula. It's when you start to pay those quarterbacks that you get into trouble. So right now they're okay, and unless he has a shockingly good season, I would honestly be okay with them moving on from him. And that's insane, right? But if you can find someone else. You can find someone else to hand the ball off and run play action. Right? There's a lot of those quarterbacks you can go find. I mean, you don't want to pay Kirk Cousins, but you can go find a Tannehill off the scrap heap, right? You can find a Garoppolo pretty easily right now for a song, I bet. Well, they'll probably ask for a first, but that's silly. But yeah, I feel that. Yeah, absolutely. It's possible. I mean, I'm not backing that pick, but you did lay out the case for it.
Well, even going back to Garoppolo, right? Didn't he almost beat the Chiefs?
Yeah, he did. You're right. He did. Yeah, with a similar style defense.
Absolutely.
All right. So I am going to, let me see. I'm moving on to the Jets versus the Panthers.
That's a really interesting game, by the way.
Nobody wants to talk about it, but I kind of want to talk about it.
I love it.
Yeah. I am. It's a tale of two teams that if you put them, they're in the same tier. They've been in the same tier for a couple of years now, and it's the tier of bad teams, right? It's the bottom tier. It's the one closest to the ground, right? But even though they're still technically in that same tier, I am much higher on the Jets than I am on the Panthers. Way high. I am sneaky. I don't want to call not sneaky wild card team for the Jets almost, right? It's not the hardest division, honestly. It could be, but we don't know. We don't know anything.
Right.
I really like what I like Salah as a football coach. Mm-hmm. If you hear what NFL players I was listening to a podcast the other day, and there was two NFL linemen. It was Scherls and I forgot another offensive lineman, and they could not stop talking about how much they love Salah, and they are just like football guys. So he's okay in the room. And he is bringing a really common sense, good offensive scheme to that team, right? We want to run the outside zone, and we want to bootleg. We have a young, talented quarterback with a preposterous arm, right? And we are going to craft a scheme that makes the game easier for him, because that's a hell of a jump, right? You're jumping from being just the golden boy down in your Mormon school to the New York Jets, one of the hardest medias and worst teams in the league, right? So we don't want him on the sidelines talking about seeing ghosts. You know what I mean? You want the game to be easy for him, and I really like what this scheme has done for him. Preseason doesn't matter, but watching him, I have not seen anything from Zach Wilson that makes me think he is not an NFL quarterback.
So,
And,
just kind of on that,
mm-hmm.
what's the difference between him and Darnold as a rookie?
Well, Darnold, I was never one of the I was never super high on Darnold. I'm not gonna say like I was like, oh, he's bad. He was the second quarterback taken, right? I think Trey Lance is great. Like, he might suck, but I think he's great now. Darnold just never seemed like he had a chance. You can't put I don't think so. You can't put it all on Nagy, right? Matt Nagy is an easy scapegoat. What he did to Tannehill is also interesting evidence to what he does to quarterbacks to hold them back. He makes it hard on them. He gives them the Peyton Manning offense. Are you kidding me? You're going to give a rookie the Peyton Manning offense? No. Slow it down. Make it simple. That's why I believe in what Saleh's doing, because I see the choices he's making, and they make sense to me, and I hear what retired NFL players say about him, and they gush. So if you can control the room and you can raise the level of play for your talented players, then you got something going. On the other hand, I'm not sold on Matt Rule. I'm not sure he's an NFL coach. In fact, I'm fairly certain that he isn't. You heard Teddy Bridgewater, of all people, talk. When's the last time you heard Teddy Bridgewater talk crap about anyone? And he came out and said, yeah, that guy doesn't know how to run an NFL practice. Right? That is not what you want to hear. The organization is not making moves. Why are you giving up valuable second-round picks? Second-round picks might be a first. You don't need to pay that for a Sam Darnold quarterback. And so you have the front office not taking the team in the correct direction, right? You have a coach who seems like he fits into the classic mold of college recruiter, right? It's easy to be a good coach if your backup is still a 4-star recruit. Right? You could be a really good head coach if the third string runs a 4-3. Right? I don't know. How do you feel about the Panthers at all?
Yeah, it's so interesting for you to say that you're so much higher on the Jets than the Panthers. And I totally get that, because obviously Rule, I'm not a huge fan of him. He really, did the most he could from going, what was he at, Baylor 1 year?
Yeah, I mean,
and so obviously that's a concern. You just don't know what Darnold's going to do.
No, they should play PJ Tucker. By the way, if they want to win games, they should play PJ Tucker. And they had a better quarterback than they got for a second-round pick already on the roster. I'll back out now, but I have to say,
that's a great take. That's a great take. Well, the reason I say it's interesting to me is because you've got the talent like McCaffrey, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Other than Zach Wilson, what do the Jets really have offensively?
Yeah, that's a valid point, and it's funny because it almost buries the lead of what do they have defensively, right? Yeah. They do have a couple of wide receivers, right? They got Davis. What's the new kid's name? What's the rookie's name? It slipped my mind.
Oh, not Denzel Mims.
No, but he was last year, and he has a chance too, but he didn't show anything. He was kind of injured. They got a couple players, and the system just kind of works, right? And if you have a quarterback, like they have some speed, right, at the wide receiver position. They have, a fine offensive line, but if you're running bootlegs, you can get away with that, right? I guess it all comes down to how much, and I know Saleh isn't going to call the plays on defense, but it comes down to how much having a defensive-minded head coach raises your level of play. Because we have seen in the past, like, defensive-minded head coaches come in, and if you have a terrible defense, you are brought up to competent, right? 2015, or was it 14? Could have been 14. Yeah, Zimmer comes into the bottom ranked defense, and oh, okay, well we're the middle now. We're the 16th ranked defense, right? You've seen it before. You've seen that, and so if they can raise it up that defense a little bit, and you got a kid with a rocket arm going out on rollouts and just firing it down the field. I mean, I just I just like the feel of that. I like the idea conceptually makes sense, right? It makes sense way more than what I'm seeing happen on the other side of the football come Sunday with the Panthers.
Absolutely. Well, hey, you got me with the defense because I'm a Bears fan, and we would have had another world championship, Super Bowl, had we had a different quarterback other than Rex Grossman. So the defense really can set the tone.
Yeah.
Obviously, even saw that tonight with the Buccaneers, and even Dallas got into it with the defense, and they created some turnovers. So that can be huge then to really catapult the offense, and that may be important in giving Zach Wilson some confidence early on in his career.
Yeah, I hope they don't ruin him, because he looks like a very fun player, and he could easily be ruined by this experience. It's a tough market. It's a tough market, and it's a bad team.
Well, he doesn't have Adam Gase.
No, well, thank goodness for that. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I think, and this is like, it's hard to gauge like perception, and when you hear someone talk the way Saleh talks, and you see the way they carry themselves, but. I see him, and it's like, okay, NFL head coach, right? Maybe he's not a great coach. Maybe he's not an amazing head coach. I see NFL head coach. I do not see that from the other side of the ball. Who you got next?
So I have the Eagles and the Falcons.
I like this one.
Absolutely. So I'm really excited for this one, and I do have to admit, part of the reason why is I have a little bit of a bromance with Devontae Smith. All right, maybe it's not a full bromance, maybe it's just a man crush, but even in the preseason, I was sold on him from just watching how he runs his routes. Obviously that was a question. He's the Heisman winner coming out. How is he going to translate to the NFL? He's so small. How is he going to really translate? And just watching how smooth he is, and a big part of it is also getting open. Can we hear me? So part of it is really getting open, and I think it's important to see that. Obviously the question is Jalen Hurts. How well will he do? I've heard that online. Everyone's worried about him, and I've heard a couple takes that people are really excited for him. My point here is, a lot of times I think it's the receivers that can make the quarterback, especially the young quarterback. And
we've seen it before for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. And you have a player like Devontae Smith that's going to come in, and he just knows how to get open, knows how to run routes. That really can make Jalen Hurts make the job a little bit easier for him. So I like this matchup for him. Obviously, it'll be interesting to see how he does, how the secondary, will try to contain him and whatnot.
Yeah,
but I really like him. And on the other side of the ball, obviously you have Matt Ryan. You have him really, obviously the twilight of his career, everything, and the loss of Julio Jones. How is he going to do that? But
I think I'll tell you. So they brought in Kyle Pitts, who looks like he limited snaps, but he does look like a beast. And more importantly, and I think this is the most important point, and I am higher on the Falcons than most because of this. Arthur Smith is now calling the plays for them, right? And that is a huge difference. That is going to, the last time that we saw Matty Ice in a system similar to this under Shanahan, he was the MVP of the league, and it's a very similar system. And we've seen it make oh my goodness, we've seen it make Tannehill look incredible. So I want to see, like, this could be a big year for them. And there's room for a wild card spot in that division. I'll leave it at that.
Oh,
There's room.
very nice, very nice. So yeah, you got Pitts. Yeah, obviously Ridley. When he had the chance, he looked like the number one wide receiver.
Yes.
So he can really obviously step up. I really look for this one to be a high scoring game that way. From obviously quarterbacks, receivers. One really point I'd like to make out here, and this is kind of one of my hot takes here, is I think we're going to see a reemergence of Miles Sanders. I think he's going to have a really big game here, and obviously against one of the worst defensive run defenses in the league, according to Pro Football Focus. So I think he is really going to, come back into focus, and he is going to have a solid game, maybe even a couple touchdowns.
That would be interesting. I didn't see that coming, but he has the talent, right? And he's gonna, with the ball in his hand, he's pretty electric, and he can catch the ball. And Hurts, I'm okay with Hurts right now. I'm okay with Hurts. He's a good leader. You can tell by the way he carries himself and the way he handled himself when he got replaced in college, which I'm sure you're very familiar with. And if he can get the ball to him, I could see it happening. They got some good, shifty, young running backs. I like Boston Scott, and I like Gainwell as well. I picked up Gainwell in a couple fantasy leagues because I see him lining up out of the slot with the quarterback who likes to kind of keep it underneath, and I'm like, okay, I can see this kind of coming together. We've seen. I love your point about Smith because we've seen what good receivers do for talented quarterbacks. How much different does Josh Allen look now that Stephon Diggs is there?
Oh, absolutely.
He's a different quarterback. I mean, and Stephon Diggs has been getting quarterbacks paid the entire time he's been in the league. No quarterback, every quarterback who's thrown to Stephon Diggs has gotten more money afterwards.
Yeah, Case Keenum, so case in point.
Yeah, it's possible. It's totally possible. It's not, and they still have a decent offensive line, right? The defense, we'll see. I mean, they just always seem to be injured up and down, so we'll see if they can keep it together. You can't project that forward, of course, but if they could keep it together on the secondary, you could see. I mean, it's the East. It's the East, and right now, the East is 0-1.
It is,
as we all.
It is. So I see the Eagles actually winning this game at 38-27.
They're a big, high-scoring game. Interesting. I would say interesting. I would think it would be a lower scoring game, but I don't. Yeah, none of the defense is really scary, so I guess it could. And if you have, okay.
In one of the leagues that I'm in, it's a 14-team league, and someone picked up the Falcons defense, and I just I said, no, I don't want any part of that.
No, and you can't do that you can't stream like that on week 1.
No, absolutely not.
You don't want that. Oh, I forgot to give it 2. I'll take the Jets by a score. I'll take the Jets by 6. I'll take the Jets by around a touchdown, 6-7 points. Yeah.
Okay.
I would call it a high scoring game. Probably not super high because McCaffrey's going to get his work. I'd probably say like a 17-24 type of vibe on that game for sure. I could see it going. I see the Jets winning that though. I see them. I see them ascending, and I would love it if the Eagles made noise in the NFC East because I just love NFC East chaos. It's just I love it so much.
Absolutely. Got to go against Zeke, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah,
it's a lot of fun. We gotta love it.
Absolutely. Great.
So who do you like? Do you have another game that you'd like to look at?
I was going to do one. You want to do one more? Let's do one more together. Okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay,
yeah.
We'll do one. Okay, because everyone wants to talk about Chargers Washington, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Two teams that have very high expectations, but we really don't know shit about, and really neither of them have backed it up as of yet, right? We've seen a quarterback in powder blue just bombing the ball down the field and making every draft analyst in the NFL look dumb because everyone was out on him, including me, way out. But that's a lot of high variance right there. And can it be repeated? Maybe. And that's a good defensive line. And I know everyone revamped their offensive line, but when you're in a fist fight, we'll see how it actually plays out against one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. Right, and so we'll see. That's going to be a hell of a matchup, and I think it'll be a little more higher scoring than people think. Probably. Do you know what the line is on that?
I'd have to look. Yeah. It's going to be an interesting point too to watch Eckler.
Yeah. Yeah.
he's questionable. We'll see. Will he be a full go? Um, I've got him on several teams. I obviously Zeke traded me him, and so I'm
Oh, that's
relying on
lovely.
him. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He got his guy though, and his guy had a good game tonight.
Although I did get Cooper back,
Yeah,
so he
that's that.
also got his. So I'm all about
Oh yeah, I
that.
forgot about that. That's good. Yeah, I like Eckler a lot. I don't always understand why he is I've seen you see the tape and it looks really good on tape, but he really has not produced at a high level consistently more than once in his career. And so like it's a big hype, right? And we see it coming down. He's also on a team with a quarterback that does prefer to push the ball downfield. And he's proven he can run between tackles as well. And we thought he was just a scat back at first, but he has proven he can run between the tackles. And so I'm interested to see if the production is there this year for Eckler. The way that the market seems to value him. I didn't draft him anywhere. I didn't really get a chance to be honest. He was never really in the right range, but I'm not in on him yet. But I don't blame anyone, of course.
Absolutely. So on that offense, if you're not in on Eckler, are there some receivers that you're in on?
Uh, Not for the price, honestly. Not for the price. I am not. So I picked up Herbert in a dynasty league, right? A startup
Hmm.
draft. So and a super flex dynasty league startup draft, right? And so yeah, but not for the price. I think Keenan Allen is good, but once again, like how often has he given you season long wide receiver one production? Maybe once or twice. Sure, he's had a couple really good pop off seasons, but he's always out, and it just doesn't seem to come together for him. I love Mike Williams as a football player. Love to watch him. You see that man, you're like, that is an NFL wide receiver. Hits
Hmm.
the ground and like he fell from a skyscraper. But he's always injured too, right? And I guess I'm in on the offense from an NFL perspective. I am out on the offense from a fantasy perspective.
Absolutely.
Is how I would put it. Yeah,
Absolutely.
because if you have if Herbert progresses 3, 5, 7, 10%, but that's just Patrick Mahomes. Like that's just Allen, right? That's Allen last
Absolutely.
season, right? That's even better. I mean, that's because he was that good, and if he can build off that, I expect him to regress almost, but maybe that's just the pessimism in me. If he can build off what he did last year, they are sitting pretty. You like anything on the other side of the ball within Washington? I'm sure you do. It's a good squad.
Yeah, I am all in on, obviously Antonio Gibson. I've got him in
Me
several
too.
leagues.
Me too. Yeah.
I just think he is going to be um, huge out of the backfield. He's just going to be, really kind of a huge, part of that offense. And obviously, the big thing is, will he stay healthy? Right? Almost similar to Eckler, but the way they used him last year when he was healthy, obviously he was that number one guy, and he really was carrying the offense. And when you have the addition of Fitzmagic, you know, now he's going to be able to push the ball down the field with McLaurin, and he's going to be able to push the ball down the field with McLaurin. That is going to open up a lot for Gibson. So I like that.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
good looking offense for sure. I don't know how far Fitzmagic gets you in a full NFL season, but he's definitely going to give you 6, 7, 8 games where he's like, wow, that was fun. Yeah.
well,
Who,
and
who,
that's
do- who do you got in this game?
so for me, that may be all that you need, right? Is just to kind of get you a little bit further, because I really see that defense really. Now I tried to pick him up in several leagues. I only got him in a couple, but I really see Chase Young making a even bigger of a leap. I mean, how much more of a leap can you make with how well he did, and some of the rest of the players on defense. So I really think Washington is going to the defense is going to be carrying that team. Fitzmagic's going to have his moments as well, and Gibson will hopefully do more of the ball control. So I have I almost said their former name. I have the football team winning this game. Oh, I'd have to kind of look at the score. Maybe I'd say probably a 24-17, something like
Yeah,
that.
20. I mean, it's a pretty standard score, but that's about right, you know. And none of us know. It's week one. No one's going to give a
Right.
good like, you know. I think that's in the range, right? Because that's two decent defenses, right? The Chargers can pressure the quarterback as well, and I am not. I mean, it's not a terrible offensive line, but it's not good. I don't think it's good enough to hold back Bosa. It'll be interesting to see, and they also have Derwin James on the back end, who
Hmm.
could be a corner, could be a safety, could be a linebacker, and he'd be a top five at all of them. With that, if he can stay on the field with that talent, so we'll see. It could be a low scoring affair. I could even see like a 14-17, 14-10 outcome as well, because these are actually two low key good defenses, and the offenses are good, but the offenses have yet to produce at an elite level, so it's hard to project them to do so right away this season.
Yeah, it's so hard to really for me to say it's going to be like 14-10, such a low scoring game
Yeah.
because it's the beginning of the year, but I definitely can see that happening. Um, with those defenses and maybe some of these players are still trying to gel together because even I believe the football team just had one of their receivers go down for possibly the year. I'd have to look at who that.
If it was someone, it was probably Williams.
Oh, no, it was Samuel, I believe. Curtis Samuel.
That does hurt actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard about that. Yeah, that does hurt pretty bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
you hate to see that for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could go either way. The first season stat line projection, or the first game stat line projections are, yeah, it's a lot. You're probably right though, because in September you do tend to see the quarterback shine, the offenses explode because one mistake is a touchdown, right? One mistake on offense is second down. So you do have the chance to really thrash them early in the season before the defenses catch up later in the winter.
I'm really excited to see Fitzmagic's beard. So,
Yep, Beard press conference. I like to see. Oh, I love a journeyman quarterback. I just love all of them. Right?
absolutely.
They're
Absolutely.
so much fun. They all have so much personality. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, so there we go. I think that's pretty good for what we got here.
Yeah, we got a week one preview. We've got a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
games here, and obviously everyone's excited for the season. I am. You are. I mean, we got football, right?
It's back. It's back, and there's fans in the stands, and we're ready to go. We got our fantasy teams drafted. We got we got our bets placed. I bet the over tonight, which was victory lap for a $25 over bet. By the way,
Hey, it's something. It's something.
something, something. I think it's $22. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm just happy to be here. Just happy to be here talking about football. Excited for this season. Ready to go. Ready to get hurt again, as I feel like we all are born anew in September.
Everyone is an expert at this time of year, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so
Oh.
easy.
Well, it's been fun. Our first episode, I'd like to kind of do more with Team Zeke and get some more, guests on here as well. And as
Absolutely.
this is
Absolutely.
the
Where can
biggest
they find you? Where can they find you?
at NFLoutdated.com and wherever winning fantasy football is happening. That's where you can find me.
You're in the corner somewhere.
I-
You can find me at Uneducated Takes on Twitter and on YouTube, and also where general NFL memery is happening. And big shout out, Team Zeke actually getting us together. A lot of cool people. We're gonna try to get them on future episodes for sure. I feel like we'll succeed to get them on. Everyone's just so excited to talk about football right now.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just a great time. Yeah,
It is. So,
great, awesome,
well, thanks again, and we'll see you for next week.
lovely, awesome. All right, everyone.
Bye.